Everybody. I want to welcome everybody to this demonstration. Shocking news. Donald Trump's and Kamala Harris's family tree. Yeah, it's been a lot of speculations on whether or not Kamala Harris is black. Her mother was born here, her father was born there. Also, when it comes to Donald Trump, is Donald Trump an actual immigrant? Who were his father, mother, grandparents? What type of money was left to him? We're going to be covering all of that. We're going to be chopping all of that up in this demonstration. That's why it's called shocking news, because y'all are going to be shocked. Y'all are going to be shocked what I reveal to you all in this demonstration. But before we get started with this demonstration, let me read my copyright disclaimer. Copyright disclaimer under Section 107 of the Copyright Act of 1976. Allowance is made for fair use for purposes such as criticism, comment, news reporting, scholarship, and research. What that means is that everything that you hear in this video that I call a demonstration is for entertainment and educational purposes only. Everything that you hear in this demonstration is only allegedly. So I want everybody to remember that. Everything in this demonstration is allegedly only. All right? Now, there's been a lot that has been said about Kamala Harris. There's been a lot that has been said about Donald Trump. Now, we can, play with it and make assumptions and assume this and assume that, or we could go straight to the core and get to the bottom of exactly what's being said. Now, when it comes to Kamala Harris, I'm going to ask you all, and y'all let me know, when it comes to Kamala Harris, is Kamala Harris considered to be a black woman, or is she non-black? Drop a 1 in the chat. Drop a 1. Salute Snapping Turtle. Salute Snapping Turtle. Is Kamala Harris a black woman? Is she mixed, or is she just another nationality? But before we get started, I need to salute everybody that's on the replay. Salute to everybody that catches this on the replay. Salute to all my moderators. Salute to all of my new subscribers. Salute to you, him, and her. Salute to you all. Salute to the whole Rock Squad. Salute, 80s baby. Salute Snapping Turtle. My great brother Snapping Turtle says, 1, she's definitely black. Now, I'll reach out to the conscious community. The conscious community is what you all call the woke community. Before there was social media, before there was the internet, before the people were actually woke, they were referred to as the conscious community. All right. Now, one from the conscious community is Snapping Turtle. He agreed. She's definitely black. And we're going to dig deep. We're going to use science. We're going to use science. And I know some people don't believe in science. Some people believe in the Big Bang Theory. Some people believe in Alice in Wonderland. Some people still believe in Santa Claus, believe it or not. Now, science is science. Science can be backed up with facts. The Big Bang Theory, those are just fairy tales that cannot be backed up. It cannot be supported. So even though you may never heard, or even though you may not know science, that doesn't mean that it's not true. But in this demonstration, we're going to learn some science today. It's going to be proven from her family tree. I'm going to use her family tree. And also, we're going to use science. And we're going to find out whether or not Kamala Harris is black. Snapping Turtle says, wait, Santa Claus ain't real. That's a joke. Everybody know Santa Claus ain't real. But I'm glad that you brought that up, Snapping Turtle, because believe it or not, some people, they really believe that Santa Claus is really real. And this is where we as parents, this is where the parents go wrong. Because as parents, we always teach our children what? We teach our children to not tell a lie. Well, if we present this big bold-faced lie to our children about Santa Claus and Christmas, salute Sagittarius, and we present them as a lie, they're going to grow up. And when they get older, they're going to find out, hey, all these years, my mother and my father lied to me. Santa Claus isn't real. So what we have to stop doing, we have to stop lying to our children. Enough of that. Let's get into this demonstration. And we're going to find out whether or not Kamala is black. Me, along with Snapping Turtle, says she's definitely black. But we're going to use science. We're going to go to science. And we're going to use her family tree to prove that she's black. I got some shocking news for that ass.
Kamala's father is Donald Harris.
So we want to focus on her father. This is Kamala Harris' father. All right? Now we're going to learn the nationality. We're going to learn where her father comes from.
He was born in Jamaica, but immigrated to the...
So the father, and I'm going to backtrack it. The father was born in Jamaica and migrated to the United States, but he was born in Jamaica. What are the people in Jamaica called? Across the world, they are called Jamaicans. And in the United States, they are called Jamaicans. But if you label or if you classify the Jamaicans are going to fall under the category as black. Yes or no? Now, if her father is Jamaican, if her father is black, what does that make her? I know, but Shank, her mother wasn't Jamaican. Her mother wasn't black. Her mother was India. I know, and I'm going to answer that for you as well. Salute, Sabrina. Salute. Sabrina says, what happened to the one drop rule? And that's another thing that we can go by, Sabrina. And if we go by that, then there's no need for me to even continue this demonstration, because we all know the one drop rule. If it's one drop of Negro blood, if it's one drop of black blood, that makes the child, that makes the man, that makes the woman black. Salute, Londa. Salute, Londa.
Father is Donald Harris. He was born in Jamaica, but immigrated to the U.S., where he became a professor of economics at Stanford University. According to...
Yarika says you are what your father are. And that's facts. That's facts. Now, the father, Donald Harris, was born in Jamaica,
but immigrated to the U.S., where he became a professor of economics at Stanford University. According to Professor Harris, the two individuals who had the biggest influence on him during his upbringing in Jamaica were his two grandmothers, known as Miss Crishy and Miss Iris. Miss Crishy owned and operated a dry goods store in Brownstown, The name Brownstown comes from its founder, Hamilton Brown, an Irish slave owner, who, according to Donald, was an ancestor of Chrissy Brown. This fact made the rounds last year when several far-right media outlets tried to make Kamala Harris look like a hypocrite by claiming that her Jamaican ancestors were a bunch of slave owners. Here's the thing. Like I mentioned in my video on Berry Gordy, most Black Americans have at least one white male somewhere on their family tree because of the sad fact that during the period of American slavery, slavers often raped females whom they enslaved.
And that's how you got the majority of the mixed babies. Let me say it again. That's how you got the majority of mixed babies, because the Caucasian, the European, which we call white, raped the melanated people, which we call black. That's how you got the majority of mixed people. And that not only went on during the Atlantic slave trade, that even went on when the Arabs enslaved us. This type of behavior went on all throughout history. And that's why when you go to these countries, you'll see the light skin, you'll see the white, you'll see the European Jews, you'll see the Caucasian Russians, you'll see the lighter complexion of those that's in India, but you never see the darker ones, because the darker ones was pushed, the darker ones were pushed up in the mountains or on reservations.
But this doesn't change the fact that far more people on their tree were likely on the other side of that equation, as enslaved individuals of African descent. So how these facts are supposed to make Kamala look bad is beyond me. Anyhow, let's now look at the other side of her family. Her mother is Shyamala Gopalan. She was born in...
Here's her mother. Here's her mother. Now, we definitely know her mother isn't European or Caucasian. We definitely know her mother ain't white. If you look at her mother have the features. Her mother has the features of a black woman. There's more.
In Chennai, India, but like Donald, immigrated to the US. The two actually met during their graduate studies at UC Berkeley, and they were both involved in the US civil rights movement. But where...
Now ask yourself, now the mother is from India. Why was the mother involved in the civil rights movement? Let's continue.
Donald studied economics, Shyamala studied medicine, and became a cancer researcher. As I mentioned in my recent video on the Marathas, India is more of a continent than a country, and therefore there's not really a single ethnicity known as Indian. In Shyamala's case, it would be more accurate to say that her ethnicity was Tamil. This means that ethnically, Kamala is half Tamil. However, according to Kamala herself, she primarily identifies simply as black, which...
Stop right there. Stop right there. Do I need to go any further? According to Kamala, she identifies as being black. I know. Let me talk to y'all. Because see, our problem is we want to take from a person, we want to take from an individual what we want to take from that individual. The individual can tell you all day long who they are. The individual, salute Miss Groovy, the individual can tell you all day long what they are about. But you know how we are. She ain't that. He ain't like that. But the individual is telling you that she's black. She's telling you that she's black. She know who she is. Salute Yvette C. She know her nationality. Salute James. But Shank, when she won the Senate seat, she says, I'm Indian. Indian is considered black. Not considered, Indian is black. Listen to me, y'all. Listen to me. After this demonstration, okay? After this demonstration, and I'm going to know because I want y'all to put it in my comment section of this demonstration. After this demonstration, please watch Hidden Colors. Hidden, Hidden. Hidden Colors. There are 4 episodes of Hidden Colors, and there are scholars. So you don't have to take it from me. Now, these are scholars in these hidden, salute Miss James, in this Hidden Colors. And in Hidden Colors, the scholars break it down how every continent, every country, every land was ruled, was occupied by the melanated people, the black people, which were us. Every nationality, every race comes from who? Us. The oldest bones. This is facts. Scientists has found the oldest bones. Ms. James says, Shank, we are everywhere. And we always been everywhere. Scientists has found the oldest bones. And those bones belong, salute be pretty, I see you, salute be pretty. Those bones belong to a black woman. They found those bones in Africa. Y'all know Shank Rock. I give facts. Look it up. Google it. And you'll see the oldest bones of any living human being was found in Africa. And those bones belong to the black woman. Huh? That's why the Virgin Mary, which we know was black, and the Son, Jesus, that's why it's so powerful and so deep. In Islam, my Muslim family, when they go to Mecca, when they take their Hajj and they go to Mecca, what do they bow down to? They bow down to a black stone. All right? I don't want to get off track, so let me get back. Everyone came from that black woman. I know, contrary to what we was taught that the man was first. The woman was first. And that woman happened to be a black woman. I can't bring forth life. I can help procreate, but I can't bring forth life. The woman is first. Then comes the man. That's another demonstration. I want to stay on target with Kamala being black.
Brings me to the topic of race and ethnicity. Let's look at the term ethnicity first. Generally speaking, ethnicity refers to a people group that lived in a particular region for a long period of time, and thus ended up sharing a common language, history, and culture. Nowadays, DNA testing...
You got to remember, let's backtrack. Y'all want it? History lesson? I'm going to give it to y'all.
...the region for a long period of time.
The ethnicity is a people group that shares a common language, history, and culture. Now, you got to remember, during the Atlantic slave trade, you got to remember when we were enslaved, we were stripped of our language. We were stripped of our land. We were stripped of our culture. Salute my boo. Salute my boo. Appreciate you for pulling up.
And thus ended up sharing a common language, history, and culture. Nowadays, DNA testing companies claim to give people an ethnic breakdown of their ancestry. But really what they're doing is just using a set of genetic samples from around the world to estimate the regions that a person's ancestors likely came from. So in this sense, ethnicity has also come to mean regional genetic variation, and thus has at least some sort of basis in science. The important thing to keep in mind, though, is that the total number of ethnic groups existing in the world today numbers in the hundreds, if not thousands. And the exact way in which all the various ethnic groups are divided and named will vary depending on which research team is doing the work.
Building your own.
Matter of fact, y'all ain't gonna have to go to Hidden Colors, because I'm gonna take y'all to Hidden Colors to make my point, to prove my point that Kamala Harris, she's black. She's definitely black. But let's get back to the demonstration. And don't y'all go nowhere either.
Will vary depending on which research team is doing the work. Race, however, is something different. According to most experts today, race is simply a social construct and has no real basis in science.
Now what I want y'all to focus on, why do they put that on our applications? Why do they have race on our applications if race is a social construct? Why do they have it on our applications? And why under it, why do they have white? Why do they have black? Why do they have non-black, Middle Eastern, so forth and so forth? Miss Groovy says, I looked up Hidden Colors and I found 5 different, which one? 2011, which one? I'll give you the link. The one is by Tariq Nazia. When you Google it, Google Tariq Nazia. But I will show some of it on here. Just give me a few minutes. But the Hidden Colors that I'm making reference to is by Tariq Nazia.
Though people have tried, you cannot scientifically determine race by grading skin tone, by measuring skulls, or by testing blood. The closest thing you can get to race by using genetics is to simply organize ethnic groups by continent. So, for example, we can say that a person has primarily European ancestry, African ancestry, Asian ancestry, etc. But even there, it gets complicated because genetic variation doesn't always match neatly with continental lines. For example, North African DNA is quite distinct from Sub-Saharan African DNA, and South Asian DNA is quite distinct from East Asian DNA. So when we try to match genetic variation with very specific color words like white, black, brown, yellow, red, etc., the science of it all fades away very quickly, and we're mostly just left with social conventions, which sadly tend to be based more on prejudice and stereotypes than on anything scientific. So that's why it is usually said that race is a social construct. Most of the time, a person's race is simply a combination of how that person chooses to define themselves, and perhaps even more so, how society chooses to define them.
And we heard Kamala say that she is black. But as on the larger scale, when it comes to science and when it comes to the originality of who you are, it has nothing to do with race. That's why her father, from being from Jamaica, her father is considered to be a Jamaican. Her mother, being from India, is considered to be an Indian. But the color, the race, is really a Western thing. It's only that in America. When you travel the world and you go to other places, they don't consider the race. They don't consider the color. So keep in mind that this is only referring to the Western world, the Western way of things when it comes to race and color.
In America, a person with one black parent and one white parent, like Barack Obama, for example, is generally considered to be black. This is...
Stop right there. Are y'all listening to me? I know y'all are listening because y'all listen to me. Now, what did it say? In America, if the father is black and the mother is white, if the mother is any other color or race besides black, it doesn't matter. They go by the race of the father. Listen, Rock Squad, listen.
In America, a person with one black parent and one white parent, like Barack Obama, for example, is generally considered to be black. This is because society tends to treat that person as being a member of whichever race is less privileged in that society. Because of this, mixed race people usually end up self-identifying with the less privileged group. In other words, unfortunately, race is often something that is defined by racism and society's tendency to racialize people. This is why we end up with complicated issues such as passing and discussions on whether so-and-so is black enough. So, am I saying that we should be blind to race? Absolutely not. Ignoring...
All right, y'all, we got 400 people in the chat with only 20 likes. Make sure y'all get my likes up. We got 500 people watching with only 20 likes. Y'all hit the like button. Let's make the likes match how many people that's watching.
Race would be ignoring the fact that some people still get treated differently than other people simply because of social constructs related to skin color. This is particularly important when it comes to African Americans. Long before the advent of DNA tests, people of European descent in the Americas have had the privilege of being able to define their ethnicity in more precise terms. For example, I've long known that my ancestry is primarily a mix of English, German, and Irish. However, because of the long history of American slavery, Black Americans often don't have this privilege. They simply know that their ancestors came from Africa. Therefore, they are stuck with simply identifying as Black. So the bottom line is that race is still an important concept when it comes to understanding history and for making policy decisions today. But don't think that it can be determined simply by looking at a person's family tree or their DNA results.
Now we're going to go to hidden colors. I'm going to take y'all to hidden colors. Drop a 1, because it's been out for a minute, and I'm sure the majority of y'all have seen it. Drop a 1 if you have seen hidden colors. And it's the scholars. The scholars. And they're breaking it down. They're breaking it down. I'm not going to give it away. But the scholars are breaking it down. Salute Helena. She is mixed, Jamaican and Southeast Asian. Now it is said that Jamaicans are a mixture of African, Indonesian, Chinese, and Europeans. Then she has the Southeast Asian from her mother's side. Ms. James says no. Yvette says don't come on here trolling, move to another channel. I advise y'all to listen to Yvette C. Don't come over here trolling, move to another channel, because I got something for the trolls. But let's go to hidden colors, y'all. Let's go to hidden colors. Give me a few minutes. And then we will be visiting Donald Trump's family tree. Yes, hidden colors. We will be going over Donald Trump's family tree as well. I told y'all a few demonstrations ago, I'm going to give y'all history 101. Because see, many of us have been taught wrong. And I can't hold it against you if you've been taught wrong. I was taught wrong. But it came a time when I started to search for the truth. So don't feel bad. I was taught wrong. We all was taught wrong. We was taught that Santa Claus is real. Our parents taught us that Santa Claus was real. So you know if the parents ain't teaching us right, then you know the teachers ain't teaching us right. But y'all hold tight. Make sure y'all sharing the live. Make sure y'all sharing this demonstration. Make sure y'all pass the word that Shank Rock is giving history lessons. Shank Rock is proving that Kamala is black. Not only that, Shank Rock is going over Donald Trump's family tree. All right. Let's see. All right. I don't really know what this is, but let's go to it. All right.
Basically a census that made records of people's ethnic backgrounds in order to determine which Native American tribes would get certain land allotments and other benefits. After slavery, many black people were associated with some of these tribes by bloodline, through marriage, through adoption, and even servitude. And because they were associated with these tribes, many black people were entitled to some of these benefits. The government did not want blacks to get these benefits, so they created a separate grievance list specifically for black people. They also started to list any full-blooded Native American who had African features as black because they didn't want them getting those benefits either.
Now here's your Indians. Here's your natives. A different complexion than what we see in the Western movies. A different complexion from what we see in the cowboy and Indian movies. And that's why, remember, back in the days, remember, it was always said, oh, my grandmother got Indian in them. My grandfather got Indian blood. We were always saying that our grandparents had Indian blood in them, but the truth of the matter is we didn't know that our grandparents was actually the natives.
At the same time, they allowed white citizens to come in and pay money under the table to be listed as part Native American. 1895, 1896, when a lot of the whites found out the benefits that these Indians, that these blacks are going to be entitled to, a lot of whites went to the Dawes Commission and said, look, why don't you put my name on there? They said, but you're not an Indian. So that's what he said, well, I'll give you $5. So the rule got around, the policy got around that for $5, that a white could put his name on the Dawes rolls and be called himself an Indian and be entitled to all these benefits, and all their children can be entitled to all the benefits forever. And so that became known as what's called a $5 Indian. And so if you go around now and check most of the Indians, the so-called Indians in America, about 90% of them are not even Indians. Those are just whites now who are passing as Indians. And they're getting all the benefits. And they're not paying any taxes, getting free college education. They put up a little reservation on the land that they don't live on. They have another home off. And they get all kind of benefits. Iron Eyes Cody was another famous Native American person. He was in the media for years. In the 1970s, they utilized him for this pollution commercial. He was known as the Crying Indian. So he was a very well-known Native American in American culture. But the reality is, Iron Eyes Cody wasn't Native American at all. He was Sicilian. Both of his parents were from Sicily. So he didn't have one drop of Native American blood in him. He was another fake Indian.
All right. Give me 2 seconds, y'all. We got 450 watching. 37 likes. Get them likes up, y'all. This history lesson. Get them likes up.
And we just have to understand that we are living in absolute fraud. And it's because we've allowed other people to tell our story.
Yes.
And so I've dedicated my life to studying our history and our culture, and I guess that's why Tariq Nasheed reached out to me with the Hidden Colors series, was to begin, because he had seen my work on YouTube. Because I never put anything up on YouTube. Everything that you see on YouTube, somebody else put out.
You don't put anything on there?
No. Because I've always tried to stay quiet, man. I've always tried. Dr. John Henry Clark, who I consider to be my teacher, he used to always tell me, Booker T, black people can do anything they want as long as they don't run out in the street and tell people what they're doing.
Hey, that's very true.
And he used to always tell me, the more popular you become, the more power you lose. And so I've always tried to stay behind the scenes, but Hidden Colors brought me front and center to the community. It exposed me to people that had never known my work. And then they Google my name, they go to YouTube and they see all these things that came down. And then they start saying, well, no, this brother been around. I've had people tell me, yo, man, I saw your son, man, he was doing a dynamic presentation. No, that was me 30 years ago. On DVD that had been converted to, on VHS, video cassette that has been converted to DVD.
Digitally, yeah.
Things I did 30 years ago, man. I've been doing this work for a while. I'm doing presentations, and man, they got me up on the corner of 125th Street talking to people.
Yeah.
On YouTube, because that's how I used to roll. But with Hidden Colors, it brought me front and center.
What was the Hidden Colors experience like for you?
Well, for me, it was interesting because I'm the only one that's been in every one of them. And it started.
Inside every dog lives a wolf.
If y'all are enjoying the teaching show, love and hit the like button. Remember, y'all, Hidden Colors. Salute, beautiful. I see you.
Presidents in Europe, the origins of life in Africa. If you want to study it from
Appreciate that cash donation, Sharon. Appreciate that cash donation, Sharon.
its deepest perspective, I've got all the books listed there. I've even got the pages per particular chapter that you need to read for a particular theme. So it's all there for the community. It's free. Because I believe that the greatest gift that you have should be free. Everything else you can charge. Because this is an economic venture too.
Salute, Jamie. Salute, Jamie. Appreciate that, James. Appreciate that, James. It's free. And I'm not going to give, it's one particular joint that I'm looking for, and then we're going to move on to Donald Trump's family tree. But I'm not going to give y'all all of this information. I'm directing y'all to where this information is at. And I want you to do your own homework. I don't want you to take Shank's word. Shank is just a guider. I'm just guiding you to the information. You have to do the homework yourself. And I want y'all to drop it in my comment section what y'all found. But hold tight, because I want to find this one clip. And then we're going to move on to Donald Trump's family tree. But I just wanted to show you all how Kamala is black. She's definitely not white. Her father is Jamaican. It don't make a difference where her mother is. Salute, Sharon. Appreciate that cash donation, Sharon. You're known, your ethnicity is known by your father. And this is facts. You ask anybody that. And not only that, it's the one drop rule. If the child has one drop of Negro blood, one drop of black blood, the child is black. This is facts. This is facts. We got 440 watching, 54 likes. Get my likes up, y'all. I ain't gonna be giving y'all this good information and y'all don't hit my like button. Hit the like button. Let me find this one, and then we're gonna move on to Donald Trump's family tree. Because believe it or not, I found out some things when I backtracked Donald Trump's family tree. And you're going to be shocked. You're going to be like, wow. And I promise you, at the end of the day, you're going to be, I don't know who to vote for now. I promise you, after this demonstration, you are going to feel like I don't know who to vote for because of the shocking news. Salute, Leslie, that I'm bringing. Leslie says, that's what they told me. My 2 biracial grandkids are black. Hold tight. All right, let me come out of this. Jeremy says, as long as the truth is told, is all that matters. I don't know, Helena, but they say I look like Tyrese and a couple other people, but appreciate the compliment. Okay. Okay. Let's go here. Salute, truth be told. I see you. I wanted to vote for Donald Trump so bad, but then I found out he wanted to give all cops immunity. I don't think that's good. Appreciate that. Here we go, y'all.
Happy holidays and a happy new year. So anyway, moving on to the topic. When we enter the discussion of ancient and medieval peoples sailing to far-off lands and founding their own kingdoms and settlements, we have a way of conjuring up images of bearded Vikings on longboats braving the icebergs of the northern Atlantic to make landfall on the coasts of Greenland and Newfoundland. Generally speaking, and as with many other things, Europe tends to be the first and the last place that we think of in this context. Outside of Europe, we may also imagine Chinese treasure ships or the Polynesians colonizing the Pacific. Africa may simply not even be factored in at all. However, peoples of the East African coast had ancient traditions of building their own indigenous vessels and sailing, exploring lands, farther and wider than contemporary European states, not only connecting their civilizations with the rest of the world through trade, but also establishing their own independent kingdoms in far-off lands. Today, we will be discussing this rich, yet largely untouched on, aspect of African history. The Indian subcontinent has the largest number of ethnic groups out of any country in the world. It is highly diverse in culture, language, religion, and genetics. To Westerners, these differences are usually only known specifically in respect to the caste system and almost entirely restricted to skin color. However, these differences in diversity have ancient origins that are much more than skin deep. Despite this, we will be focusing specifically on Black and/or African populations of India. The first group of people we'll be discussing here are one of the most interesting and important subjects of this video. A people that are believed to be among the remnants of the original indigenous peoples of India. Though their populations are restricted to the Andaman Islands rather than the subcontinent itself, the Jarawa and Sentinelese people are believed to be the descendants of the original human populations that migrated out of Africa and into South Asia tens of thousands of years ago. And due to their isolation on islands, their gene pool was not subject to the effects of migrations and conquests that affected the mainland. In fact, the people of Sentinel Island are classified as an uncontacted tribe and display extreme hostility to all outsiders. In 1956, the Indian government officially banned all travel to the islands to protect the indigenous population from modern diseases and exploitation.
And these people are still over there in India. This was a few years ago. Y'all remember the white missionary. Y'all remember the white missionary traveled to India and went over there. The government told them white missionary, leave them people alone. Don't go over there on that island where they at. They were black people. They were African. And that missionary, that white missionary went over on that island and he never made it off that island because they killed him. They killed him. And you never heard nothing else about it. The Indian government said those people have been on that island for as long as we can remember. And those people happen to be these right here.
Physical features resemble those of Africans, including the curly or kinky hair and dark skin, but their facial features slightly differ, and they are relatively small in stature with a more slender build. Collectively, these people are known as negritos, which literally translates to little black people in the Spanish language. Despite their similarities in appearance to Africans, mitochondrial DNA testing has ruled out any recent African origin, indicating that their physical similarities to Africans are simply a result of convergent evolution that happened over a period of up to 60,000 years of isolation. Similar populations are found all throughout Southeast Asia and Oceania, including the Philippines, Taiwan, Thailand, and Papua New Guinea, the latter of which was named after the West African country of Guinea due to early explorers noticing the physical similarities between the people of the region. Many of these communities are confined to mountains, islands, or other places that offer natural geographical barriers to waves of migrations or intermarriage endemic to other regions of the world. Oh, and while we're on the topic of Southeast Asia, kratom is a plant species indigenous to the region as well and has been used as a traditional medicine since ancient times. And my last ad, I noticed largely negative feedback when I discussed this herb, and I promise all of you that I was being 100% honest in that ad. I've tried the product, I do love it, and it does make me feel focused, energetic, happy, and mellow. I legitimately feel less stressed out and less anxious and just overall happy, focused, and productive within a half an hour or so of using it. My content is all about honesty, and the same is true for my sponsored ads. As I mentioned before, kratom is unregulated, but sources condemning its use will consistently give you results from people who simply took too much or mixed it with other substances. In fact,
what I'm going to do is, because I got to move on to the Donald Trump family tree, what I'm going to do for you all, I'm going to post the Hidden Colors link in the comment section of this demonstration. Yvette's brother Shank family in chat wanted to know if you could leave the live up, please. Sure, I'll leave it up. And also, I'll post the link to all 4 of the Hidden Color movies in the comment section when I end this demonstration. But I got to move on. I got maybe like 3 minutes before I move on to the Donald Trump family tree. Let me see. I want to show y'all the hidden colors. I want to show it to y'all now. How the darker ones, because in the Bible, and it even speaks about in the Bible, and we have to understand that in the Bible is filled with parables. The Bible is filled with metaphors. So it might say Jesus walked on water, and people will literally take Jesus walked on water, but it's speaking in a parable. It's speaking in metaphors. Now, in the beginning, it talks about God bringing the light out of darkness. The darkness is the original people. The light is those lighter people. Through many years of the Caucasians, the Europeans mixing their blood and mixing with the original people, the people started to lose melanin. That's why if you take me for instance and put me in the sun, I can stay in the sun for 24 hours. I'll get darker, but health-wise, the sun won't do anything to me. Why? Because I have melanin in my body. I'm filled with melanin. Now, if you take a Caucasian, if you take a European and put them out in the sun, the European, the Caucasian, doesn't have melanin. They're not melanated people. So this is why they get sun cancer. This is why they get the diseases that they get, because they don't have the melanin. They don't have the melanin in them. Hold tight. Hold tight. I see y'all down there. Hold tight. I got a few more minutes and I got to move on to the Donald Trump, but hold tight. All right, let's go here. Let's go here. All right, let's go here. Let's see what this will say. And then we'll go on to Donald Trump's family tree. Hold tight. But remember, I will post the link to all of the Hidden Colors movies. I'll post it in the comment section when I end this demonstration. Nah, that's not what I want. Come on. Nah, that's not what I want, y'all. Oh, boy. I could go to the Minister Farrakhan, but after I drop the links for y'all to watch the Hidden Colors, on the next demonstration, I'll go to the minister, and the minister is going to break this down for y'all. Yaqub. The story and history of Yaqub. And this talks about the creation of the Europeans. But I don't want to give that to y'all right now. Come on, y'all. Let's go to Tyreek. Let's go to Tyreek.
Yeah, I think Madam CJ, she came out with 19 teens.
Yeah.
And she was a well-known entrepreneur. And the media was starting to make, we had newspapers in heavy circulation, and there was more media. But in Biddy Mason's day, I think Biddy died in 1890, around 1890 she died. There's not a lot of coverage for what was going on in the country in 1890, but yeah.
Speaking of Madam C.J. Walker, she created the concept of direct marketing. What Avon does and Mary Kay and all of that started with her. Direct marketing, where you have different groups of people, you sell to them and then they sell to somebody, they sell somebody, that multi-level marketing, that started with her. Nobody was doing that before Madam C.J. Walker with her products. Nobody. And they were doing it because of segregation. Because, you couldn't really go out, to certain places. So you had to create networks where you're safe and you knew the people and they knew the people, because you just couldn't be walking around all willy-nilly. So that inadvertently created direct marketing, which is what we see today. White people said, hey, this woman made all that money doing direct marketing, let's do that too.
Yeah. Back to the racism in LA, when black people left the South during the 30s and 40s, they thought they were leaving racism to come to a better place.
All right, we're going to move on. Salute, Sophie, beautiful. Tracy, I see y'all. We're going to move on to Donald Trump's family tree, okay? As I stated before, at the end of this demonstration, in the comment section, I will drop the links to the Hidden Color movies, okay? Now, let me just recap for those that just pulled up. Appreciate you, Kirsty. Appreciate you for subbing. Appreciate all my new subs. Let me just backtrack. But first, let me say that this is an open platform. We don't discriminate over here. I don't care what religion you are. I don't care what nationality you are. I don't care what gender. I don't care your political views. You are welcome over here. Everybody is welcome. The only thing that I ask from you all, no profanity in the chat. Please refrain from any cuss words. No profanity in the chat. That's all I ask. Other than that, your opinion is welcome. You can disagree with me. That's fine. I don't have a problem with anyone disagreeing with me. Just do it in a respectful way. Thank you. Let me backtrack. Now, the reason why I say that Kamala is black, her father is Jamaican. Her mother is from India. A child is known by the race of that child's father. Also, and this goes even deeper than that, if the child has one drop of black blood, if the child has one drop of Negro blood, that child is identified as being black. At one time, India, as well as China, as well as Jerusalem, as well as any continent, any country on the face of this earth, at one time, Saudi Arabia, Pakistan, at one time, the whole world that we know of was occupied by the dark-skinned people. The dark-skinned people was known as the Nubians from the land of Cush. And we can go on and on and on and on and on. What I'm saying is, yes, the original Arabs, Prophet Muhammad was a black man. The original Arabs were black. The original Jews, when you go over there in Egypt, when you go over there in Jerusalem, you're going to see some black Jews, because at one time, the whole continent, the whole world was occupied by the dark-skinned people, whom today is known as black people. Through the race mixing, when the Caucasians, and this is why white people are known as Caucasians and Europeans. When the Caucasians and the Europeans made their way from the Caucasus Mountains up in Europe, they started to kidnap these black women, the original women. And when they were kidnapping them, they were, you know, the S-A word, the R word, right? And through that, that's when the race mixing started to take place. And then that's when those people started to move around. And that's how you have Italy. All that was occupied by us. The Moors, and this is a fact, the Moors ruled Europe for 700 plus years. The Moors were us. All this is facts. This is nothing that I'm making up in my head. We got 554 watching. I'm getting ready to go to the Donald Trump family tree. Keep getting them likes up. But the Moors that ruled Europe for 700 and plus years, those Moors were us. And what the Moors were doing when they ruled, when we ruled Europe and up in the Caucasus Mountains, we taught the Europeans, which is the white people, we taught them art. We taught them math. We taught them how to cook. And I'm not roasting. I'm not cracking jokes. I'm not making no mockery of no white person. I'm just giving facts. That's all. But the Moors, which were us, we brought them music. We brought them art. We civilized them. We taught them. And that's why even today, the whole world gets what? The whole world gets pretty much everything from us. Y'all realize that hip hop is the #1 genre of music across the world. Everybody, now you got the people in India making rap songs. You got people in China, you got people all over imitating black people, which is a good thing. It's a good thing. But history repeats itself. I gotta move on to Donald Trump's family tree. How would black people rule the Caucasus Mountains? That doesn't make any sense. All I could tell you is research the Moors when the Moors ruled Europe. That's all I could do. I can't do the homework for you. That's a known fact. Just Google the Moors, M-O-O-R-S. The Moors ruled Europe. And it's going to lay everything down to you. But I got to move on to Donald Trump's family tree. 510 watching. Get them likes up, y'all. Show me some love. It's history, right? Okay. So let's move on to Donald Trump's family tree and find out some shocking news that I found out. So, do y'all consider Donald Trump an immigrant? Drop a 1. Drop a 1 in the chat if you consider Donald Trump to be an immigrant. Drop a 2 if you consider Donald Trump an American. Drop a 1 if you think Donald Trump is an immigrant. Drop a 2 if you think he's an American. I see you, Big Pressure. Appreciate you, Pressure. I see you. All right, all right. Ms. James says Queen Elizabeth line goes back to a black Portuguese Queen Charlotte. And it's facts. I mean, all this is facts. And as I stated before, it's not to put no group of people down. It's not to put no race down. It's just facts. And that's why we're in the condition that we're in today, because believe it or not, the majority of the people in the world don't know who black people are. But if the world, if they knew who the black Americans were, they would treat us a whole lot different. Bet that. I'm going to say it again. The majority of the people in the world don't know who the black Americans are. Hell, the majority of the black Americans don't even know who we are. But if the true identity in Putin, what did Putin say months ago? Putin said, it's time for me to worship the black Jesus. I mean, I could go on for days and days, but that's not what this demonstration is about. But even Putin, months ago, said what? I think it's time for me to worship the black Jesus. I'll say it again. If the majority of the people in the world knew who black Americans were, if black Americans knew who we were, it would be a different outcome from the black Americans. But that's another demonstration. Let's go to Donald Trump's family tree. Drop a one, drop a one, drop a one if y'all have seen Donald Trump's family tree. All right, I'll take this real quick. White calling. Jesus wasn't African. He was Middle Eastern with brown skin. Go to Revelations. It's right there in the Bible. Revelations chapter 1, verse 14 describes Jesus Christ. And as I stated before, it was a time when your Arabs, the Middle Eastern people, the Saudi Arabians, and all of them were us, dark-skinned. But through the race mixing, that's how you got the lighter Arabs. Yes, Prophet Muhammad was a brother. Prophet Muhammad was black. Yes, but let me get back to the Donald Trump family tree. If y'all watch Hidden Colors, all of this you'll see. And they have the facts. Now, these are scholars. I'm not no scholar. These are scholars. And they'll be able to back it up. And if you don't take it from the scholars in Hidden Colors, ain't nothing that I could do for you. Ain't nothing that I could tell you. But let's move on to Donald Trump's family tree. Then we'll come back and chop it up. Watch what y'all find out.
Of the United States. We have done his family previously, but since he's running for president again and is in the news a lot, I thought it would be a good opportunity to update and expand his chart. Let's start with the surname Trump, which is related to the words trumpet and drum. These words in turn go back to the word triumph, which in Roman times referred to a special type of victory parade.
Jesus had an earthly father. Jesus, I'll say it again, Jesus had an earthly father. That's another demonstration, but let's get back to Donald Trump's family tree.
Fifth President of the United States. We have done his family previously, but since he's running for president again and is in the news a lot, I thought it would be a good opportunity to update and expand his chart. Let's start with the surname Trump, which is related to the words trumpet and drum.
And then I'm gonna continue with Donald Trump. Truth be told, Yaqub was a scientist and he got in trouble for mixing genes and cloning. Yaqub seen that in the black people, it was two germs. A black germ, which was the dominant one, the brown germ was the weaker one. Truth be told, go ahead and get a demonstration for me, truth be told. Listen to truth be told, y'all. Yaqub got in trouble. In the Bible, you know Yaqub as Jacob. Let me backtrack, y'all. Let me backtrack.
Of the United States. We have done his family previously, but since he's running for president again and is in the news a lot, I thought it would be a good opportunity to update and expand his chart. Let's start with the surname Trump, which is related to the words trumpet and drum. These words in turn go back to the word triumph, which in Roman times referred to a special type of victory parade. For many years, Donald Trump claimed that his paternal ancestors came from Sweden. In fact, this is what he stated in his 1987 book, The Art of the Deal. However, we now know that his paternal ancestors actually came from Germany, from a small town in Bavaria called Karlstadt. It was there that his great-great-grandfather, Johann Paul Trump, lived. Interestingly, Johann Paul Trump is also an ancestor of the Heinz family, known for their famous ketchup. You see, Johann Paul's daughter Charlotte married a Heinz, and her son John immigrated to the US, where his son Henry went on to found the Heinz Ketchup Company. But
now this is Donald Trump's family tree. Now they got started back in the 1700s, 1800s, as far as the business. So money has always been in his family.
More concerned with Johann Paul's son, Johannes, who had a son named Christian, who married Katharina Kober. They were the parents of Friedrich, who at the young age of 16 moved to the United States in order to escape military service in Germany. He initially worked in New York as a barber, but then in 1891 moved to Seattle, which at the time was still a frontier town. There he bought and ran a bar, which also operated as a brothel. Several years later, during the Klondike Gold Rush, he moved up to the Yukon, where he continued to sell liquor and access to prostitutes, becoming rich in the process. Then in 1901, he ended up back in his hometown in Germany, which is where he met Elizabeth Christ. They married the next year and initially moved to New York, but then back to Bavaria, where they decided to settle. However, when the Bavarian government found out that Friedrich had been a draft dodger, they banished him from the country. So the couple had to settle in New York after all, which is where their 3 children were born. In New York, Friedrich invested his ill-gotten gains from out west into real estate. But then in 1918, at the age of 49, he mysteriously dropped dead. His family would later learn that he was one of the first cases of the Spanish flu, which went on to become the deadliest pandemic in history. During the 1920s, Elizabeth continued to run the family business under the name E. Trump, and then later E. Trump and Son, that son being her eldest, Fred Trump. Her other son, John Trump, instead went on to become a scientist at MIT. I'll come back to John Trump a little later. For now, I want to point out Betty Trump, Fred and John's older sister. She married a William Walter and had a son named John Walter, who became the mayor of a small village on Long Island. Fred, however, is the one that we're most interested in, being that he was the father of Donald Trump. Once he turned 21, he basically took over the family business.
So that's Donald Trump's father. So, which we already knew, Donald Trump was already, when it came to money, he was already set. We got 607 watching with 89 likes. Come on, y'all, get them likes up. Donald Trump, financially wise, was always set.
Eventually marrying Mary Ann McLeod, whose family I'll talk about a bit later. But like both his father and his son, Fred Trump is a controversial figure, known for his questionable business practices. But before I get into it, let me say up front, talking about the Trump family is difficult. Former President Donald Trump is by far one of the most controversial figures of our time. Just last week, he was found guilty in a New York court on 34 felony charges. Reactions in the wake of this continue to be nothing short of polarizing. This is why I asked Ground News specifically to sponsor this video. Their platform combines all the world's news in one place so that you can compare coverage from across the political spectrum and verify that your information is factual. For example, when it came to the verdict on Trump's hush money trial, they aggregated over 600 articles. Taking a closer look, you can see that some of the headlines quoted Trump saying that the trial was rigged, while others emphasized the weight of a felony conviction. So it's obvious that depending on where you get your information from, you can end up having a totally different perspective.
And that's so true. And I want everybody to understand that it depends on where you get your information from is going to determine how you look at Donald Trump as well as Kamala. And that's why over here, I do my best to stick with the facts. That's why I tell y'all, I'm not a Trump supporter, but I'm not against Trump. I'm not a Kamala supporter, but I'm not against her. My job is just to report to you all the information, and then we'll chop it up. I'll say it again. It depends on where you get your information from. If you get your information from a platform that doesn't like Donald Trump, then most likely after you hear what that platform has to say about Donald Trump, you ain't gonna like Donald Trump. If you go to a platform that's a Trump supporter, then I'm sure most likely you're gonna leave being a supporter. But over here, I'm not a Trump supporter. I'm not against Trump. I'm not a Kamala supporter. I'm not against her. I only bring you the information, and then I get to the shocking part of the information that I bring to you. So you have to pay close attention. You can't just come over here and just because you hear me talking about Donald Trump, you cannot assume that I'm a Trump supporter. You cannot assume that I'm against Trump. You have to pay attention. And then you'll see, okay, this guy right here, he's neutral. He talks about the good when it comes to Donald Trump. He talks about the bad. He talks about the ugly. He talks about the good when it comes to Kamala. He talks about the bad. He talks about the ugly. So that's what you get from this platform. Let's finish.
This is why Ground News is one of my most used apps. Look, you know that I love charts. Well, this app shows me charts like this one and additional data on each news source, like where their funding comes from, which can heavily influence the way a story is spun. It even highlights what isn't being widely covered. Thus, it can help you have more productive conversations with family and friends on contentious topics, like the Trumps. So, with a major election approaching, Ground News is a tool that we all need. You can check it out now by going to ground.news/charts or by using the link in the description or pinned comment. Subscribe through my channel this month.
So, what did we learn? What did we learn from going over Donald Trump's family tree? We learned that they got long money. We learned that they got long money. I can't get into my settings right now, Yvette. As long as the trolls not using profanity, Yvette, and the rest of my moderators, as long as the trolls are not using profanity, just let them rock out. Because as he said, he got over 100-something accounts. He ain't going to do nothing but keep coming back on different accounts. So as long as the trolls is not using profanity, just go in and let them rock out. I see him no Yvette in 80s Baby. I see him. But what have we got out of this? He always had money. Now, in my opinion, let me give y'all the good. In my opinion, the man comes from money. You know, they know it runs in the blood. They know how to promote. They know how to execute. They know how to get that money. Now, is that a problem? In my opinion, hell no. Hell to the nah, nah, nah. Hell no. Let me sit in front of these people and let me learn. Okay, Precious says, but he not from over here, in just my opinion. How many of y'all think Trump is an immigrant? Trump can't delete me because I got better hair. Kirk said, more attention you giving them, they like get high off it, just ignore it. Right, that's why I said, let the trolls rock out. But is he an immigrant? Was he born on American soil?
Let's just say your brand is dropping the year's hottest sneaker.
Justin dropped the 1. Sally said, then my apologies, I must have misunderstood your comment. So, let me see who y'all rocking with. Drop a 1. I see you, Stephanie. Salute, Stephanie. Fred migrated here, so Dawn was born here. Miss Jam says the father migrated here, but Dawn was born here. Drop a 1. Drop a 1 if y'all going with Trump. Drop a 2 if y'all going with Kamala or Kamala, however you pronounce it. Drop a 1 if you're going to vote for Trump. Drop a 2 if you voting for Kamala. Me, I'm still waiting on a presidential debate. Sabrina says some of their money was not clean money. Ms. Jans dropped the 2. CN dropped the 1. Akira dropped the 2. Chad dropped the 1. We got some 1s. Pressure need the 1. Willie Jones, I see you, Willie Jones. So we got more Trump supporters. Stephanie dropped the 2. James dropped the 1. 80s baby dropped the 2. Okay. Eliza says Trump is also the first president in my lifetime that's actually lost money being the president. Yvette dropped the 2. Kirsty says 1 for sure. Kamala came from money. Carla says Kamala came from money too. Chad says, do you fact check the debates? I'm waiting on this debate, Chad. Appreciate that super chat, Trelane. Trelane says Trump had his chance in office and did nothing but take money out my pocket. I'll take my chances on Kamala to see what she does. If you agree with Trelane, drop a 1. If you disagree with Trelane, drop a 2. I'll read Trelane comment again. Trelane says Trump had his chance in office and did nothing but take money out my pocket. I'll take my chances on Kamala to see what she does. Drop a 1 if you agree with Trelane. Drop a 2 if you disagree. Some people feel both. Some people feel Trelane is right. Some people agree with Trelane. Some people disagree. Some people disagree. So can y'all give me some examples? Give me an example how Trump took money out of your pocket. Give me an example on how Trump put money in your pocket. Once again, I'm not a Trump supporter, but I'm not against Trump. I'm not a Kamala supporter, but I'm not against her. I'm neutral. I call a spade a spade. I will congratulate Trump and Kamala on anything that they do that's good. But anything that they do that's wrong, that's foul, I will call them out. But I just want everybody to know I ride neutral. So I don't want nobody to feel like, man, he attacking Trump. Man, he attacking Kamala. Man, he for Trump. Man, he for Kamala. I'm neutral. I'm neutral. I'm neutral. Shane says, I think we were all better financially when he was in office. Pressure says, I didn't get a stimulus check. I made too much money. Damn, big pressure. Damn. Trump supported our own oil reserves. With me, for those that's new over here, I really didn't have, for me, Trump done more good than he done bad, for me, what I saw. My issue, let me read Trelane and then I'm going to give my comment. Trelane says, once I lost money on my taxes when Trump came into office and implemented the tax change that stopped me from itemizing, it was over for Trump for me. Okay, and I get that. I get that. I get that. I get that. Like I said, for me, it was the tweets. Every 5 seconds you turn around, Trump was doing them tweets. It was the comments, you know, grab him by the pussy. You know what I mean? And when it came to COVID, I don't know, drink some bleach. That's what I was in disagreeing with Trump. Now, when it came to actually running the country, I stood on more of what he stood on than I disagreed. White says, what about the platinum plan that Trump promised black people? I stand on that, White calling. And that's why I said, for me, the majority of the stuff that Trump done, I was like, okay, good. It was a little here and there, but the majority of the things that Trump done and stood for, I was for it. However, the tweets, that was negative. The grabbing the women by the pussy and, you know, making the comments about the women and all of that, I wasn't for that. I wasn't for that. That was the ugly side of Trump, in my opinion. In my opinion, you know, I didn't agree with everything. No, I didn't. And I'm not going to sit in front of y'all and lie and make it seem like I agree with everything that Trump was for. No, it wasn't 20 years ago, Jonathan. It wasn't 20 years ago. So now, if he's reelected, I hope he comes different. I'm saying his character. I'm saying the way how, you know, his comments and all that. I don't want none of that. But as far as running it, now people say, but Shank, he's talking about giving the cops immunity. That's negative. That's negative. You know, because no cop, and I'll say it again, no cop should get immunity if they take the life of any human being unjustly. No cop should receive immunity. So I'm definitely against that. Shank, a year from watch, how many people going to be disappointed in Kamala? Not sure. I'm not sure. So now it's like, and that's why I said I want to see this presidential debate between Trump and Kamala. That's what's going to determine which way I'm going. Trump's stated plan is to increase income wage taxes to 30% for everyone making more than Social Security. Stacey says bleaching is what the call using interfered to clean your blood. That was Trump's reference, not drinking bleach. Come on, Stacey. Come on, Stacey. He was wrong. Like I said, he was wrong. And we can't clear it up. We can't sweep it up under the rug. Right is right and wrong is wrong. If the man was wrong, the man was wrong. Just like if he was good, he was good. Whatever he done that was good, we got to give it to him. If he done something good, we got to give it to him. But if he was wrong on something, we got to call him out. Vice versa. You know, that's all I'm saying. See, I'm not a Trump supporter, but I'm not against him. So I'm able to call him out when he's wrong. But I'm also able to give him his flowers. He was serious, caller. Come on, caller. Caller, come on, caller. But it's okay. It's okay. That was then. And we can't change then. That was then. I'm focused on him now. I want to see if there's any difference in him. I want to see because The same way with Trump, I feel the same way with Kamala. So that's why I'm paying attention to the debate. And I want to see, has either one of them made a change for the better? And in my opinion, Kamala has room for improvement and Trump has room for improvement. They both have room for improvement. That's my personal opinion. That's my perspective on it. And we can't change the hands of time. We can't turn back the hands of time. What happened, happened. What Kamala did, she done. What Trump said and done, they done that. And we can't change none of that. Ben says Kamala was worse than Biden. Let's take a little deep dive into the history of Donald Trump. And then we're going to come back. And this ain't to bash him, because I don't want y'all to think with me chopping it up about the history of Trump. I don't want y'all to think I'm bashing him. But at the same time, let's talk about it. I want us to talk about it. So this is the history of Trump.
Donald Trump learned a crucial lesson as a child.
Do whatever you have to do, you say whatever you have to say. Winning is everything.
Donald Trump is a major deal maker, and he has made his money mainly from Manhattan real estate.
Trump, 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 Trump. His name is his power.
He realized what Americans really loved was celebrity. If you were a celebrity, everything was possible. You're fired. You're fired. You're fired.
And if people mocked him,
Donald Trump is here tonight. He certainly would bring some change to the White House.
he should fight back.
I am officially running for President of the United States.
Here comes the war of the Trumps.
Now let me ask y'all this. Why, when he announced that he was running, why the racist narratives wasn't pushed? Why did they wait until he became the president to push that he was racist? In my opinion, I don't think that that was fair because they wasn't pushing that narrative when he was running. People was like, yeah, it's time for a change. It's time to get somebody in there that's not a politician, right? This is what they were saying about Trump when he first ran. People were happy that Trump was running. So why, once he get in there and he did the things that we wanted him to do, why did they start pushing the racist narrative?
It was war, and they were determined to win it. You don't know what he's going to do next. You don't know what's going to happen to him next.
This isn't another video about Donald Trump's time as president. There are hundreds of those.
Over the years, I've surprised a lot of people. The biggest surprise is yet to come.
This is the story of how Donald became Trump. Of all the men who've influenced Donald Trump, none have had a bigger influence than his father. Fred Trump was born in the Bronx to German immigrants Frederick and Elizabeth. After he finished high school, he took a job as a carpenter's assistant. He liked the work, but he wanted to be the boss. So when he turned 21, Fred incorporated a company, E. Trump and Son, named for his mother, who started the company before Fred was old enough to run it. During the Depression, Fred almost went out of business, but before he did, he got his big break. Fred built one of New York City's first modern self-serve supermarkets and sold it for a profit. He and his business partner used the profits to buy a subsidiary of a bankrupt real estate company for pennies on the dollar. That subsidiary gave them easy access to a bunch of properties that were nearing foreclosure. Fred bought them low, sold them high, and made enough money to turn E. Trump and Son into one of New York's biggest real estate companies. He passed his success on to his children. Donald and his siblings grew up in a house that had 23 rooms, and the family chauffeur drove them to school every morning. Fred also passed on his ruthless streak. Throughout Donald's childhood, his father always gave him the same advice. Work hard, don't be weak, be a killer. Donald took it to...
I think that's a good motivational to give your son. Don't be weak, work hard, I don't see nothing wrong with that.
Heart. He bullied his classmates. He even bullied his younger brother. One day, he threw in a...
Well, I think that that's wrong to be a bully. So he got one strike going for him. He got one strike going against him. I don't think that anybody should be a bully. So that was wrong.
Eraser at his teacher. Fred immediately took action and sent Donald to a military boarding school upstate.
If I threw an eraser at my teacher, I probably wouldn't be able to sit down to this day.
It was a tough, competitive environment, but surprisingly for a rich kid, Donald thrived. He excelled at several sports and was named captain his senior year. In the yearbook, he was named Ladies' Man. Years later, Donald would credit his time at boarding school with teaching him the discipline he needed to succeed in business and politics. But he knew that discipline by itself wasn't enough. So he went to college, 2 years at Fordham University before a transfer to the University of Pennsylvania's business school. After graduating in 1968, Donald Trump joined his father's company. The first few years weren't glamorous. Donald and Fred had to roll up their sleeves and turn around some housing projects which were losing money. For Donald, it was an early lesson. Just because he'd been given lots of advantages, he still needed to work for his success. After a 3-year apprenticeship, Donald became president of the company. The torch had been passed.
And I will say, salute Perp. I see you, Perp. Salute Perp. I will say, no matter how much money you was left, no matter how much money you sitting on, you still got to work. You still got to execute whatever it is that you got going on.
From father to son. One of his first moves was to rebrand. E. Trump and Sons sounded stale and old-fashioned. A modern real estate business led by a dynamic young entrepreneur needed a glamorous name. So Trump rebranded it to the Trump Organization. It was an early step in the evolution from Donald to Trump. Trump moved into an Upper East Side apartment and started going to some of Manhattan's elite nightclubs, usually with a beautiful woman on his arm. It didn't look like it to most people.
There you go, y'all. There you go. You gotta give him 3 points for the way how he dancing. He get 3 points for his dance moves. Check him out, y'all. 3 points to Donald Trump for his dance moves. Check him out, y'all.
Trump moved into an Upper East Side apartment and started going to some of Manhattan's elite nightclubs, usually with a beautiful woman on his arm. It didn't look like it to most people, but Trump was working.
Yeah.
He was marketing his most important product himself. It was right around this time that he made his debut in another high-profile local institution, the New York Times. The Times embodied the elite establishment that, decades later, Trump would build a political career upon opposing. But in the early 1970s, he was anxious for their attention and approval. The first time the New York Times mentioned Donald Trump, it wasn't for a good reason. The headline said it all. Major landlord accused of anti-black bias in city. The story concerned a Department of Justice lawsuit filed against Donald Trump and his father, which alleged that the Trump Organization discriminated against African Americans.
All right, what do y'all think about this? Trelane, you happen to be a New Yorker, so Trelane and other New Yorkers that's down there in the chat, y'all can enlighten us a lot better because y'all are New Yorkers. What do y'all think about the lawsuit that was filed against him and his dad? Let me backtrack and y'all let us know what y'all think.
The story concerned a Department of Justice lawsuit filed against Donald Trump and his father, which alleged that the Trump Organization discriminated against African Americans. Even for someone who believed all publicity was good publicity, it was tough reading. Most of the lawyers Trump talked to urged him to settle, but that just wasn't who he was. Trump met Roy Cohn at a swanky Manhattan nightclub in the early 1970s. Trump was complaining to anyone who'd listen that he couldn't find a lawyer who believed he could win the discrimination lawsuit. Cohn offered his services. He filed a $100 million countersuit against the Department of Justice. Although it was unsuccessful, the final settlement ultimately allowed the Trump Organization to get away without admitting any wrongdoing. It was a win for Trump, and a lesson he'd carry with him for the rest of his life. Never admit your mistakes.
What do y'all think about that? What do y'all think about that? Trump supporters, what do y'all think about that? And non-Trump supporters, what do y'all think about the outcome? And what do y'all think about Trump making a statement, never admit? to your wrongdoing. Let's backtrack.
Offered his services. He filed a $100 million countersuit against.
Marlene says they did discriminate against African Americans. I'm from Brooklyn. Ms. Groovy says he wouldn't allow black people to rent houses or stay in the hotels.
The Department of Justice. Although it was unsuccessful, the final settlement ultimately allowed the Trump Organization to get away without admitting any wrongdoing. It was a win for Trump, and a lesson he'd carry with him for the rest of his life. Never admit your mistakes.
Chad says, I want to know more on the case. I heard that the doormen told them not to come in, not Trump. Miss P says, Trump have too much baggages. White Colin says, rich blacks or poor blacks. Good question, but do it matter? Now, that's a good question, White Colin. I will give you that. Do it make a difference whether or not those blacks that he discriminated against were poor or were they rich? Chad says he did let a homeless black woman stay for free. Star Killer says, I really don't know how much about him before he became president, so I need to know more. Justin says, I voted for Trump 2020, but Trump voters, you deserve a real American. Barbara says, I think he should stop claiming he's a Christian by not wanting to admit his wrongdoing.
Roy Cohn was Donald Trump's lawyer for 15 years.
This is a picture of Donald and me in which he says, Roy is my greatest friend.
Trump soon set his sights on something that could make his career. The old Penn Central Railroad had gone broke a few years earlier and left behind 3 prime real estate assets, the Commodore Hotel and 2 rail yards on New York's west side. The rail yards were the largest undeveloped tracts of land left in Manhattan. If Trump could get his hands on those assets, he'd prove to everyone, including his father, that he could succeed as a developer in his own right. He knew that if he played his cards right, he had a chance. He wined and dined the development agency's lead official. He held press conferences where he outlined his vision for the site. And thanks to his father's political connections, he met face-to-face with the mayor. After pulling strings for weeks, Trump got what he wanted, the right to develop the sites. Trump turned the Commodore into the Grand Hyatt.
The Grand Hyatt held its grand opening today.
Probably the most successful hotel, one of them in the country, we feel.
He knew that just winning the development rights wasn't enough. It wasn't going to silence his critics, who said he was only in that position because of his father's money and connections. And it wasn't enough to satisfy his own ambitions. If he truly wanted to be the king of New York real estate, he had to build. And not just anything, something big. So Trump swung for the fences. He promised to build 20,000 apartments on the site, more than his father had built in his entire career.
All along from 72nd all the way down to 59th, we're going to have magnificent marinas, shopping, restaurants, everything, all over the Hudson River.
The local community hated the idea. They thought the proposal just didn't fit with the character of the neighborhood, and they were politically influential enough to block the development. Trump raged. But there wasn't much he could do. Full-scale attack wouldn't work. The situation required deft diplomacy that Trump just didn't have in his toolkit. So when the option came up in 1979, he had no choice but to let it lapse. It was the biggest and most bitter disappointment of his career to date. But in Trump's mind, defeat was only ever temporary. So he made a vow that next time he wouldn't let it slip out of his grasp. In the meantime, he had other things occupying his mind. Ivana Marie Zelnikova was a tall, striking blonde with an exotic backstory. A competitive skier and child actor, she married a childhood friend so she could use his Austrian citizenship to escape the Eastern Bloc. After they divorced, she moved to Canada, where she met Trump. A few months after they started dating, they got married at a church on Fifth Avenue on April 9th, 1977. Their first son, Don Jr., was born about 9 months later. Fifth Avenue wasn't just home to the church where Donald Trump got married. He also wanted it to be the new headquarters of the Trump Organization. Trump had dreamed of building a tower on Fifth Avenue since he was a kid. To him, it represented the peak of glamour and power. The site he wanted was occupied by a luxury department store. In order to press his case, he kept calling and calling the parent company asking if they were interested in selling the site. They thought he was joking, but he was serious, and he wasn't going to give up. Finally, after a couple years, the parent company's new chairman, who was looking to pay down some debts, said yes.
Bonwitz is being sold to Donald Trump.
Trump secured the site, but that was only half the battle. He still had to persuade the approval committee, which was made up of the same sorts of people who blocked his plans for the rail yards just a couple of years earlier. Trump needed a different approach. So this time, instead of aggression, he pointed to the fact that reputable architects liked his plan design. Not everyone was persuaded. The media class hated it. The construction of Trump Tower marked another big step in the journey from Donald to Trump.
This is the greatest skyline in the world, so this is a great addition to the New York skyline.
The completion of the tallest concrete building.
And it marked the beginning of what would prove to be a highly successful decade.
Hello, welcome to the 80s.
Ronald Reagan, the next president of the United States.
Introducing Macintosh. We have a new formula for Coke.
That's the dumbest thing I've ever heard
I Donald Trump's take please for the Charles Buffalo.
The murder of John Lennon, one of the most influential people of this time.
Gorbachev teared down this wall.
The 1980s were tailor-made for Donald Trump. Greed was good, and Ronald Reagan proved you didn't need to be a career politician to become president. Only in the 1980s could Trump go from being a real estate developer to a national celebrity who bridged the worlds of finance, entertainment, and politics.
Well, there's a lot of coverage in that.
Let me ask y'all, was Ronald Reagan hated as much as Donald Trump? One thing we know that they got in common, which in my opinion is messed up, they both were almost assassinated. Donald Trump and Ronald Reagan both wasn't politicians. Ronald Reagan was a movie star. He became president. What do y'all think? Do y'all think that Ronald Reagan, the people hated Ronald Reagan just as much as they hate Donald Trump, or do y'all think it's about equal?
The newspapers and magazines which had made fun of him were forced to cover his rise. He became a frequent guest on talk shows, whose hosts liked his charisma and his willingness to talk about all sorts of topics. Opening a casino added to Trump's opulent glamour. To many Americans, Trump, who had a tower with his name on it and a glamorous European wife, embodied the 1980s hyper-capitalist version of the American dream.
You'll walk down the street sometimes, the people will touch you just for the good luck.
It's a strange phenomenon that's been taking place.
But even though he had almost everything anyone could ever want, there was still one thing Trump wanted, but didn't have: the West Side Rail Yard.
What do y'all think? And I seen a few of y'all comments, should we hold a man accountable for things that he said 25 years ago? If we hold a man accountable for things that they said 25 years ago and for the way they may have felt, we all would be in trouble. We all would be in trouble. I would be in trouble. In fact, if we hold a man accountable for things that he said a year ago, I would be in trouble. Now, maybe, and this is why I said his first presidential term, okay, now I need for him to switch lanes. You gave us that, Donald Trump, your first election. You did good. You did good. But in my opinion, your character, and y'all could disagree or not, I'll take any disagreements, his character wasn't up to par of a president. If you disagree with me, just drop a 1. Drop a 1 if you disagree with me. I think that his character, I think that he needs to work on his character. My opinion. I think he has to watch what he say. Keep it raw. Keep it raw. Say what most people are scared to say. But when it comes to making comments about women, negative. somebody's husband, y'all help me out. Somebody's husband was attacked or I think unalived, and I think he made a joke about that. See, stuff like that coming from a president, negative. For all my Trump supporters, I need y'all, you can disagree with me, but I just need for y'all to just see it for what it is. He's the president of the United States of America. The children, along with the rest of the world, is looking to him. One thing we can say about Obama, now I didn't agree with everything that Obama done, but one thing that we can give to Obama character was on point. He spoke very intellectual. He watched what he said out his mouth. So for Trump, that's what I'm looking for. Okay? And that's why I said I want to see this debate, because this presidential debate is going to tell me a lot about both. And I just won't be looking at Trump, don't get it twisted, for the Kamala supporters. She has to be up here just as well as Trump. I give Kamala flowers. I do. But she can't be laughing at every damn thing. I ain't looking for that. I'm not looking for that from Kamala. To be laughing at everything, thinking everything a joke, that's negative. I need to see from both of them at this presidential debate. I need to see from both of them. I need to see the character. I need to see at this presidential debate, they both have to be there as if they just got elected as the next president. That's what I'm going to be watching. I'm going to be sitting back. I'm going to be doing my homework. I'm going to let it play out. Y'all know I let it play out. I'm going to watch her. I'm going to watch how she answer the questions. You know, keep your sense of humor. I'm not saying don't have a sense of humor. I'm not saying just completely get up there and be bougie. Nah, I'm not expecting Trump to be bougie. I'm not expecting Kamala to be bougie. I'm expecting them to be a little loose. But I'm watching, and I'm watching carefully, and I'm listening to how they answer the questions. I already know Trump and Kamala against each other. Oh, man. Oh, it's going to be fireworks. And that's what I'm looking for. I'm looking for the fireworks. I'm looking for Trump to go in on her. I'm looking for Kamala to go in on Trump. But I'm looking for the character. Star says, I don't vote on character, I vote on policy and what would be the best for America as a whole. I actually want you to respond to what I'm saying. I'm curious to see what your response is. I get where you coming from, Star Killer. I get where you coming from. But me and you, we differ just a little bit. But that's okay. That's okay. You got a right to feel how you feel. And I respect you for how you feel. You voting on a policy, and I can only respect that. I'm voting on the policy too, but at the same time, it would be like a school teacher. You send your kid or you send your grandkid to school, you know what I mean? And it's a good teacher, but the teacher smoke weed in front of the classroom. The teacher talk about and tell the kids, it's okay to smoke weed. I smoke weed. You see the difference? I'm just saying the profession, like a job, like when you go on a job and the president is a job. You know, he's taking on a job and he's taking on the highest job in the whole world. That whoever sits in that seat at the White House in D.C. on 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue, they hold, salute Mel, I see you, they hold the most powerful seat through the whole world. Your character has to be intact. Now, I respect you, and I respect everybody else that feel like that. Shank, you voting for character, I'm voting for policy. I'm voting for policy and character because at the end of the day, he's sitting in the most powerful seat in the whole world. You know what I mean? And this is what I'm saying. We as a people, we as a nation, we got to stop making excuses for people. This is why crooked cops get off. Well, yeah, you know, he is a good cop. Yeah, you know, he been on the force for 27 years. You know, he had 11 medals and you know he did this and so what, he killed the black guy. That black guy had drugs in the system. That black guy been locked up before. We cannot keep making excuses for any America when they do something wrong. And that's all I'm saying. His character. And if you are a Trump supporter, it's okay to disagree with me, but I just want y'all to just take what I'm saying in consideration, meditate on it, and on the next demonstration, talk to me about the character. His character as the president is equivalent to your child's teacher. You don't want your child teacher, regardless of how well they teach, you don't want them in class telling the school kids, it's okay to smoke weed, I smoke weed. It's okay to drink, I drink. I was taught as a young man, and I watched white men, I watched black men, I watched men, period. I watched Spanish men. I studied their character. And you know, just as well as I know, a man, you're going to know exactly what type of man he is by his character. I got one more clip. We're going to finish up, and then I'm going to let y'all get out of here. But I respect everybody's opinion that feels like it's not about his character, it's about his policies. I respect y'all opinion. And there are a lot of y'all that feel that way. But I just want y'all to know I respect y'all opinion, even though I disagree, but I still respect y'all opinion because that's y'all opinion. So I don't want y'all to feel different. Jonathan says business is greater need than character right now. I disagree, Jonathan. I disagree. But it's okay. It's okay. It's okay. Let's finish up. Give me a few more minutes. We're going to finish up, and then I'm going to let y'all get out of here. We got 359 watching with 134 likes. Make sure you hit the like button. Let's get them likes up. Make sure y'all hit the like button. I'm not going to hold y'all that much longer.
Even though he had almost everything anyone could ever want, there was still one thing Trump wanted, but didn't have: the West Side Rail Yard. After Trump was forced to give up the option half a decade earlier, it had been taken over by a friend of his father's, a man named Abe Hirschfield. Although the redevelopment plan was approved, Hirschfield couldn't finance the project. It was partly because he had made too many concessions to the local government, but mainly it was because Donald Trump was working hard behind the scenes to make sure he didn't get the money he needed. When Hirschfield eventually walked away in frustration, Trump bought the development rights and a second chance to move out of his father's shadow once and for all. The week before Thanksgiving in 1985, he announced his plans. The site would house nearly 8,000 apartments and condos, and about 600 football fields worth of TV and movie studio space. Trump wanted to call it Television City.
Donald Trump would like NBC to move to this site on the west side of Manhattan. Why is it so important that NBC stay in New York?
Thousands of jobs, hundreds of millions of dollars in taxes, and perhaps almost as importantly, and maybe more importantly, NBC has a name, an image, a prestige that you really just don't get with another company.
Once again, the local community stood in his way. But Trump soon realized that his most formidable opponent wouldn't be local residents. It was the mayor. Ed Koch was Trump's mirror image. Each man wanted the same thing. They wanted New York City to be the greatest city in the world, and they wanted to be the main character. But they went about it in very different ways. Koch was a Democrat who described himself as a liberal with sanity. He despised the way Trump constantly tried to strong-arm the state into giving him tax breaks while turning the city into a playground for the ultra-rich. But he was growing increasingly dependent on the tax revenues that Trump and other rich developers brought in. Trump, meanwhile, hated anyone who stood in his way.
I hope that New York City has a different mayor at some point, because I think Ed Koch is a total disaster. He's been a very bad mayor for the city.
The two men had already fought a long battle over the tax status of Trump Tower. Television City was the next battlefront.
How have you the chutzpah to say that this government has been anti-development? That's an outrageous comment on your part, and I can prove that you're wrong.
Koch refused to give Trump the tax breaks he wanted.
I would say he's got no talent and only moderate intelligence. If I've done anything, I've gotten NBC focused on by the city of New York, and I think that's very important. I think it's vital.
Trump again found himself in the uncomfortable position of being powerless. He couldn't overcome the combined resistance of Ed Koch and the community activists. The dream of Television City was dead, and the rail yard site remained frustratingly out of reach, at least for now. Trump turned his frustration into speculation. He bought a fleet of planes from a bankrupt airline and started his own airline, Trump Shuttle.
I never thought I'd be doing this, I have to tell you. Suggest everybody have a good time, and for many years enjoy the Trump Shuttle.
He plowed money into expanding his casinos in Atlantic City. But in hindsight, the most important thing he did was release a book. The Art of the Deal was about Trump's life, career, and business strategy. It was a big success, and it was his gateway to what would become his future career.
If you lost your fortune today, what would you do tomorrow?
Maybe I'd run for president.
30 years before he ran for president, Donald Trump was talking about the same issues.
The United States is systematically being ripped off by many of the wealthiest countries of the world.
The fact is that the world is ripping off this country. Germany is ripping us off bigly. Saudi Arabia.
And we're going to stop right there. I agree with him. Now, he's been saying this for the last 30 years. I know most of y'all wanted me to get into the bankruptcy part. That can be on another demonstration. But he's been saying this for 30-something years as far as these other countries getting rich off of our country, off of America, and America in return is not getting nothing. I give him 2 points for that. Once again, I'm not a Trump supporter. I'm not against Trump. I'm not a Kamala supporter. I'm not against her. This is an open platform where we all come and voice our opinions and our perspectives. You are welcome to voice your opinion, even if you disagree with me. The only thing that I ask, even if you trolling, I ask no profanity. That's all I ask for any of you all. Please do not use any profanity in the chat. I appreciate all of you. You all have been wonderful. Salute from Morocco. Appreciate you for pulling up. I appreciate all my new subscribers. I'm going to be leaving links for the Hidden Colors movies. I'll leave it in the comment section. Make sure y'all check out the Hidden Color movies. When I come back tomorrow, I will talk about Kamala. I will put all the attention tomorrow on Kamala. I appreciate everybody. Salute, and I'll see everybody tomorrow at 5 p.m. Eastern Time. Salute.